we'll fight Tank next.
I'm here. What they want to do, I'm here, baby. Ain't no safety on this Glock.
I will be the first to admit, I didn't think this fight was going to happen. You can go back, you can watch some of my prior videos where I mentioned it here and there. I just thought that there were a lot of people talking. I thought that both fighters wanted it. But I figured that somehow, some way, really Oscar De La Hoya, but the fight wasn't going to get manifested, right? That people who have watched boxing for a while, we've become used to this, right? We've kind of become accustomed to the fact that there's a certain amount of fights out there that are going to get talked about, that are going to get hyped up, that are going to supposedly be right in negotiations, almost about to happen, but then never materialize. Most current one we can think of is Spence Crawford, right? But I thought this was going to be one of them, right? And I thought it was going to be that way for two simple reasons. Number one, Oscar De La Hoya, okay? He didn't want this fight to happen. And the reason, I didn't think he was going to want this fight to happen. I thought he was going to be working behind the scenes to make sure it didn't. And it was because of the fact that Ryan Garcia is a cash cow.
He might be the platinum boy when he ends up knocking out Gervonta Davis.
The man makes a tremendous amount of money in the sport. And undefeated records are overvalued. So if he goes out there, potentially, he goes out there, gets a loss, it's going to knock his value down. He's a young guy. He's got a lot of years left where he can earn a lot of people a lot of money. So historically, you see promoters kind of try to protect guys a little bit, kind of try to manage their careers and make sure that they get the right fights at the right times. You see somebody who, it'd be a big fight and they'd make a lot of money, let that marinate for a little bit. Let's go after that guy when he's a little less dangerous. Let's not go right now, and let's continue to fight other people where we know we can get wins and stack up a lot of cash, right? That's a game plan that we've seen for a long time. So I thought that was going to be in play here by Oscar De La Hoya. We weren't going to get the fight. That leads us to the second reason. Tank's really dangerous. Ryan Garcia has got some defensive flaws. There's a lot of different things that we can look at that we can say, hey, this could lead to disaster when you're up in there against a guy as dangerous as Gervonta Davis. So I just never really thought that it was going to manifest. That being said, there's definitely been times when I've thought about it. And when I look back and when I was thinking about this fight, it's interesting. I was thinking Gervonta Davis gets the knockout, man. I don't know exactly how long it's going to last. Not going to go the whole way. Gervonta Davis steps in there against Ryan Garcia. He's going to get a stoppage victory. And it seemed like whenever we heard it talked about on the internet, that was the general opinion, right? That seemed to be pretty much the consensus. Unless you were talking about somebody coming out of Ryan Garcia's camp. It was like, look, Gervonta's this, he's that. He's going to come out with it too much. He's going to be able to get the stoppage. But now we're here, right? Now we're like 5-6 weeks away from the fight. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see something different. We're starting to see more and more people start to come out and say that they think Ryan Garcia could come out with the victory. They think that he's got the potential of getting the knockout, that he could pull the upset. He's too big. He's too strong. He's too fast, right? Exact flip side of that, Gervonta Davis is too small. He's got short arms. He's got other focuses in his life. His attention is being pulled by his legal troubles outside of the ring and all kinds of different little things. I don't know, though, man. I don't know. We see this press conference, and Ryan Garcia is over here talking about how you were losing to Barrios before you got caught. Now, look, I'll be the first to admit, I'm a big fan of both of these guys. As a fan of Gervonta Davis, the man was not losing to Barrios before he got caught. Now, he didn't win every round for sure, and he's lost rounds in the past to multiple fighters, but hasn't everybody? Is that what we're talking about here? Look, this is a simple styles make fights, right? And when we look at this matchup, I look at the past, how these guys have built up, how things have gone. I'm going to break it down a little bit more as time goes on, but my initial opinion at this point still holds true. When we look at Ryan Garcia, he has the defensive flaws. The man he fights flat-footed. That's always going to be problematic when you have a guy who's a dangerous puncher. On top of fighting flat-footed, he's not known for having great head movement. He's not known for having great upper body movement. He fights in straight lines. They're not working angles, both in and out of his offensive techniques. He reaches for shots. We saw that against Luke Campbell. That's how that knockdown happened. Luke Campbell comes in with that left hand. Ryan Garcia reaches for that shot. That's it. Chins up in the air. He gets dropped. We've seen him, when he tries to explode offensively, get over his front foot, which leads him out of balance, which leaves him open to counters. We saw that happen against Luke Campbell. We saw that happen against Javier Fortuna. Guys that were able to go in there and they were able to land shots, but they weren't able to necessarily take advantage of it as much as a guy like Gervonta Davis can. Why? Well, Gervonta Davis has more power than those guys, number one. He's more explosive than those guys, number two. And oh, by the way, landing counter shots with that left hand is something he's kind of good at. right? We saw that against Leo Santa Cruz. We saw that against Riley Romero in his last fight. Like, this dude is good at landing that left hand. He can come forward. He can be the aggressor. He can back you up against the ropes and land it. He can allow you to back up and be the aggressor, set a trap, and land it that way. Dude's got multiple ways of getting that left hand off. And when he hits people, he hurts them. So when I look at Ryan Garcia, his offense has never been the problem. Nobody's ever come out and said Ryan Garcia isn't fast enough to win. Ryan Garcia isn't strong enough. He doesn't have a good enough left hook to win this fight. You've never heard anybody say that. Probably never will. But there's a difference between going in there and being able to get it done. Look, we've seen all the videos of Ryan Garcia out there, dude, working the Cobra bag, just looking crazy, putting the blindfold on and working and looking amazing with his technique and his reflexes and his skills. We've seen him work the bags and the body shot challenge and the way he just gets these left hooks off nasty. Leading up to this fight, we've seen Joe Goosen already giving interviews talking about how, man, Ryan Garcia is hurting his sparring partners. Ryan Garcia is out here. He's putting guys down. He's hurting them. I have to go in there and save these sparring partners because dude is putting a beating on them. Are those sparring partners Gervonta Davis? There's a lot of stories coming out of a lot of camps about what guys do against sparring partners. But is that what it's going to be like against the man on fight night? We've seen him in the ring. Now, look, I'll be the first to admit that once he hooked up with Joe Goosen, I figured that there was going to be progress. I figured there would be, and there already has been. They've been together for 2 fights. This is going to be the 3rd one. And already I like what I'm seeing in the sense that he seems a little bit more patient. It's always been one of the big knocks on him. He's going in there. He kind of gets excited a little bit. He seems to be rushing his work, but he seems to be getting a little bit more patient. He also seems to be working the jab a little bit more. The man's got a great jab when he decides to use it. I think he brings it back a little bit low, but as far as just the straight up offensive technique, he goes out there, it's quick, it's fast, it's like a spear, it can hit guys. He can use it to keep the distance well because he is taller and longer than most of his opponents. Joe Goosen seems to be having him work on that. He also seems to be really having him work on the right hand. We saw that get used more against Fortuna. He needs to get better with that balance, though, because he leaves himself, like I mentioned before, he leaves himself open to the counter shots when he uses it. But the offense has never been the question. It's been the defense. I think the defensive holes remain. I think Gervonta Davis absolutely almost perfectly fits the mold in the sense of having the offensive tools to be able to exploit the defensive holes that Ryan Garcia has. Now, I do want to mention one thing here, and that's going to be the weight. So the fight's happening at 136. Prior to this, Ryan Garcia said he was going to be fighting at 140. He is a big guy. That cut down to 136 is going to be trouble. I don't have any problem with that at all. Look, guys want to come in at the negotiating table and they want to come up with the weight. Gervonta Davis is 135. Ryan Garcia fights at 140. Where these guys are going to come to meet at. Gervonta Davis, has more negotiating power or whatever the case may be. Ryan Garcia really wants to make the fight. For whatever reason, they didn't settle at 137.5, which would have been right in the middle. They came down to 136. Great. All for it. It's going to be a tough cut for Ryan, but at the end of the day, he's the one who accepted it. However, I do have a problem with the rehydration clause. Okay, and the simple fact is fighter safety, fighter health. Okay, you can say that's negotiating, but I'm coming at it from a slightly different standpoint. I don't even really think it should be on the negotiating table. Okay, and when you think about it, these guys are already going through the process of draining their body of water. Prior to going in there with a fight against a trained professional fighter, 36 hours before the fight, you're dehydrating yourself to make this weight. That's already problematic enough. Dude, that's already a horrible thing for your body and your organs and your brain and everything else. But then on top of it, you're limiting the amount that a man can rehydrate. Dude, I think that has real serious potential negative long-term health consequences. So I'm not for it in that regard. I mean, it is what it is. That's a part of the sport. I'm not denying that for one fact. I'm just saying kind of on the record from a slightly different standpoint. I don't like him at all. Not necessarily like pointing out this fight and making it specific, although I'm bringing it up here because right after this first press conference, it seemed to be a big point of contention in the sense that a lot of people were bringing it up in the media and a lot of people were talking about it and things like that. So I just wanted to touch on it from that standpoint. But it is what it is, man. It's a part of the sport. These guys agreed to it. It's going to be what it's going to be. And yeah, that could potentially have an effect in the fight. Because if Ryan Garcia comes in here, he has to really drain himself to make 136. He's not able to fully rehydrate. If this ends up going the distance or long, you get into the 9th, 10th, 11th round, that could end up being real trouble. You want to try to push the pace maybe. You want to let Gervonta Davis get comfortable, and maybe part of Ryan Garcia's strategy is going to be to push the pace. That can catch up with you because it definitely can have a negative effect on your cardio. So man, I'm really looking forward to this one as it gets a little bit closer. We're kind of going to see where this, man, I'm going to start breaking down more film as more press comes out for it. I'm interested to see what happens. This is going to be a good one, man. This is going to be a good fight, and my hat's off to both men for making it. Look, these are two young dudes. Neither one of them necessarily had to come out and make this fight, but they decided to come out and make this fight, and everybody's really happy to see it. So let me know what you guys think. What'd you think about the press conference? How'd you feel about this fight a year ago versus how you feel about it now? Does your opinion change at all? Have you seen the progress with Joe Goossen? Do you think he looked better against Tago? And I didn't really talk about Tago because the dude was a runner, but did you think he looked better against Fortuna than you've seen him in the past? Do you think it's going to make a difference? Do you think these things outside the ring are going to have a negative impact during the fight regarding Gervonta Davis? So let me know what you guys think.